Imagine this. You're strapped into a passenger capsule on a colossal Ferris wheel, right? You're slowly rising high above the city skyline, moving in this massive, perfect circle.
But here's the fascinating puzzle. How do we mathematically predict your exact height from the ground at literally any given second during that ride? It's not a straight line, and it's not a simple curve. Well, by the end of this explainer, you will absolutely understand the concept of sinusoidal waves, the master mathematical formula behind them, and exactly how to apply that formula to solve real-life problems, just like this Ferris wheel.
Okay, let's kick things off with Section 1, Waves in Real Life, specifically looking at periodic functions.
You know, math is often at its absolute most beautiful when it models the world around us. And the universe is fundamentally in motion, often in these repeating loops. I mean, think about the white light shining from the sun, or rolling ocean waves crashing on a beach, or even those gentle ripples that expand when you drop a stone into a pond. These phenomena, they aren't just random, chaotic movements. They all share a common, repeating, entirely predictable shape. In math, we call this periodic pattern a sinusoidal function.
Moving right along to Section 2, mapping sine and cosine by graphing the unit circle.
All right, so to understand how to actually control and predict these waves, we first have to map them out. And we do that by basically translating the circular motion of a unit circle onto a flat coordinate graph. Let's look at the basic sine function. If we take angles from our unit circle, let's just call them x, and calculate their sine values, we start to see a really cool pattern. When x is 0, well, the sine is 0. When x reaches pi over 2, or 90 degrees, the sine peaks all the way at 1. When we plot these coordinates on a graph and connect the dots, we don't get jagged, messy edges. Instead, we get this incredibly smooth, flowing curve. It rises from 0, crests, falls through 0 down to a valley of -1, and returns right back to 0. Honestly, it's like the heartbeat of trigonometry.
Now we also have the cosine function, and think of this as essentially the sine wave's twin, just starting from a slightly different position. This brilliantly illustrates their unique symmetries. See, the sine function has odd symmetry. It's symmetric about the origin, meaning the sine of -x equals the negative sine of x. Cosine, however, starts its wave at a peak of 1, right on the y-axis. It has even symmetry, perfectly symmetric across that y-axis. So the cosine of -x is exactly the same as the cosine of positive x.
That brings us to Section 3, shifting and stretching waves. This is where we start transforming these functions. So now that we understand the basic shape of these standard waves, oscillating between 1 and -1, let's go ahead and stretch them out. Because obviously real-world waves, like a massive tsunami or a tiny little sound wave, they come in all different sizes. First up, we have amplitude. Think of amplitude as the absolute vertical stretch factor. It represents the greatest distance the wave travels from its resting point, which we call the midline. If you're looking at a real ocean wave, the amplitude is exactly how tall that wave gets from the calm sea level to the very peak of the crest. If your amplitude value, which we represent with the letter A, is 4, well, your wave stretches exactly 4 units high and 4 units low.
Next up is the period. The period is the specific horizontal length required for one complete wave cycle to finish before it starts repeating itself all over again. For a standard sine wave, this takes 2 pi. But we can change this using a multiplier we call b. The formula for the period is 2 pi divided by the absolute value of b. So if your b value is greater than 1, it actually compresses the wave horizontally, making it happen faster, kind of like a fast-forward button. But if b is a fraction, less than 1, it stretches the wave out, making it much longer and slower.
Hold on, let's do a quick retention check here. What happens if our amplitude value A is negative? Like say it's -4 instead of +4. We know the absolute height of the wave is still 4, but what actually happens to the graph?
Well, the answer is that a negative a value results in a complete reflection across the x-axis. It literally just flips the wave upside down. So instead of starting at 0 and going up to a crest, a negative sine wave starts at 0 and immediately dips down into a valley.
All right, Section 4, the sinusoidal formula. Let's put all this together.
Let's see how this builds into what's easily the most powerful tool in this entire explainer. We're putting all these moving pieces into one place. Notice the master formula here, y equals a times the sine of bx minus c plus d. Guys, this single equation allows us to mathematically describe absolutely any sinusoidal variation in the universe, no exaggeration. By just tweaking these 4 little letters, a, b, c, and d, we can stretch, squash, slide, and elevate our wave to perfectly match any real-world data.
So the absolutely crucial part is how we extract our properties from this master formula. Here's how you do it, step by step. Step 1, your amplitude is simply the absolute value of A. Step 2, your period is 2 pi divided by the absolute value of B. Step 3 is your phase shift, which is just how far the wave moves horizontally, left or right, and you calculate that by dividing C by B. And finally, step 4, your midline, the brand new resting vertical center of the wave, is simply y equals d. That d value just shifts the whole graph straight up or straight down.
Okay, wait, this is super important. We need to look at a classic point of student confusion regarding phase shifts. Look at the formula again. It's bx minus c. So if you have an equation that says sine of x minus pi, does that minus sign mean the graph shifts to the left toward the negative numbers?
Actually, scratch that, it doesn't. This is the trap, because the standard formula already has a minus sign in it. A minus sign in your specific equation means your C value is actually positive. Therefore, a minus sign means the graph shifts to the right. Conversely, if you see a plus sign in the parentheses like x plus pi, your wave is actually shifting over to the left. Don't let that trick you.
Before we move on to our grand finale, let's just lock these key characteristics into memory. Periodic functions inherently repeat. A standard cycle takes 2 pi. The domain goes on forever, covering all real numbers, but the standard range? That's locked tightly between -1 and 1. The phase shift moves us left or right, and the vertical shift moves the entire system up or down. Got it? Awesome.
And finally, Section 5, Real-World Applications. Let's do some Ferris wheel math.
Now, let's truly connect this to real life and return to that colossal Ferris wheel we talked about at the very beginning. We're going to use the London Eye for this. It is a massive, massive structure with a total diameter of 135 meters. It completes one full, slow rotation every 30 minutes. And to keep things safe for everyone, passengers board from a platform that is exactly 2 meters off the ground.
All right, let's walk through the math step by step to build our equation. Step 1, the amplitude. If the total diameter is 135 meters, the radius is just half of that, which is 67.5 meters. That radius is our amplitude. It's exactly how far up and down you go from the center point of the wheel. Step 2, the midline. If the wheel's radius is 67.5 meters, but the bottom of the wheel is sitting 2 meters off the ground, the very center axle of the wheel has to be at 69.5 meters high. So 69.5 is our midline, D. Step 3, the period is 30 minutes. Setting 2 pi over b equal to 30 gives us a b value of pi over 15. And step 4, the shape itself. Think about it. You board a Ferris wheel at the very bottom, right? So what wave starts at its absolute lowest minimum point? A flipped cosine wave. So for this, we need a negative cosine function.
And here is the beautiful result. The height of any rider at any given minute, t, is perfectly modeled by this equation. Y equals negative 67.5 times the cosine of pi over 15 times t, plus 69.5. With this single line of math, you know exactly where that passenger is at minute 7, minute 14, or minute 29. It's almost like magic, but it's just math.
This brilliantly illustrates the true power of trigonometric math. It's not just boring numbers on a page, it is literally the language of motion. So I'm going to leave you with this to think about. If we can perfectly model the slow, steady rotation of a giant Ferris wheel, how would you approach writing an equation for a weight rapidly bouncing up and down on a spring? Like, what would be the amplitude there? What would dictate the period? Keep that in mind and you'll be perfectly primed for our next explainer.